Let's see who hops on. We shall see. Always takes a few minutes. I know it's Sunday night. People got work tomorrow. I do too, but I don't go into work that early. So, figured to talk about fragrances for a little bit. And this one, I have the Jusbox sample set and the Hermetica sample set as well. So I was going over some of them last night, just smelling them again. I hadn't smelled them in a long time. But from what I did sniff, I did come across some. Man, this was years ago. I've had this sample set for a while. It's this guy right here. It doesn't have everything in here. It has Beat Cafe, 14-Hour Dream, Use, Abuse, Micro Love, Black Powder, Feather Supreme, Feel and Chill, Live and Loud, Green Bubble, Cheeky Smile, Golden Serenade, Suit of Lights, Siren and Sailors, and Night Flow. I think by now this sample set is probably twice as big from their entire line that they have available. I haven't looked if they have one that carries all of them, but I remember this one being pretty affordable. It was like $45 maybe. I got it off of ZGO Perfumery, which is a great place. They have a lot of good pricing, good selection, good customer service, and yeah, overall, just good company from my experience. This is the insert that comes with it. It gives you a breakdown, a little bit of a story about each scent and kind of what it's supposed to evoke, what notes are in there, kind of what it's inspiring, and all those things. But I didn't sample all of them. I sampled the ones that were mostly kind of the fallish winter scents for me, at least. The patchoulis and the ambers with a little bit of vanilla, leathers. But one that stood out to me, and where is it here? I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. One of these really reminded me of something that is super popular. Hello, whoever jumped on. Welcome. Let me know your scent of the day. Ania Cheeks. How's it going? Are you a fragrance enthusiast, or did you just kind of stumble upon my live? Please let me know. I'm looking for a microphone. One here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It sounds no. I stumbled. Oh, okay. Well, welcome. What I wouldn't draw my. It sounds no long. What is that? I'm not sure what you're trying to tell me there. Toscar baby, Toscar. Not sure what that's supposed to mean, but let's just go with it. Anyway, so if you stumbled upon this live and you're not a fragrance head or fragrance enthusiast, welcome. I usually just do some rundowns of new scents that I've been trying out and experimenting with or sampling mostly. This is Jusbox. Oh shit. Sorry about that. I thought they were a little bit more secure. Man, I cannot find the microphone. This is the company, Jusbox. It is music inspired. It's a niche perfumery brand. Smells like a bunch of different things, right? So they've got 14 samples in here, and it's kind of something for everyone. I like most of them, but some of them are a little bit redundant. And we'll see you later. I think everyone jumped off. I'm not sure who's still on, if there's anyone on yet. But in that case, I'll give it a second. Welcome back. I don't know where that mic is. I'll be right back. There it is. I found it. Okay. Who is 3 more people on here. So, yeah. If you're into scents, this is what I was talking about earlier. This black powder from Jusbox. Okay. The perfumer or the scent, it's a soft you're bored. Okay, well, I'm sorry, it's a fragrance channel, so I don't know what to tell you. If you're not into fragrances, it's probably going to be pretty boring for you, just to let you know. So, but black powder, it smells very similar to a molten brown perfume, and it's called Russian leather. Okay, so this black powder is supposed to, be inspired by Kurt Cobain, and if you look it up online, it's supposed to be the 90s grunge music. This is what it says. Let's see here. It says, Los Angeles, 1992, Nirvana's leader Kurt Cobain shocks the MTV Music Awards by playing a few unplanned chords. This will mark the generation's rebellion towards the establishment. The jarring chords of Cobain's guitar are the top notes. The Swedish black currant together with the bitter pimento represents the poignant riff of Seattle sound. Gentle hints of tonka bean interplay with the intensity of patchouli, whilst the persistent sandalwood note expresses the obsessive rhythm of instruments. Frankincense celebrates both the revolutionary atmosphere and the rebellious spirit of Nirvana's lyrics. So, that's what it's supposed to evoke, okay? It doesn't evoke that for me. I'm sorry. It's a smooth. It smells good, but it doesn't sound like revolutionary or like fighting the establishment or anything like that. It's a smooth, suede leather, which, if it was supposed to give you that kind of ambiance or that feeling, I feel like it should have been a little bit more animalic, and it would, it would be a little bit more rough and not as smooth and sweet as this kind of soft leather. And like I said, it reminds me of a molten brown fragrance by the name of Russian leather. So that's my 2 cents on black powder. It does smell good though. Next one was, let's see, where is it? Beat Cafe, perhaps? Yeah. So Beat Cafe, the perfumer is Dominique Ropion, who's done a ton of perfumes, okay? And he did a few of these for this house. This Beat Cafe, when you spray it, it smells exactly, I shouldn't say exactly, it smells very similar to a Chopard fragrance, which is this one here. Okay, it smells similar to that Chopard. It's called Oud Malaki. But they're both great. But I'll tell you what, this one costs you about $55, $60 right now, versus the cost from Jusbox for Beat Cafe is closer to about $200 for nearly half of this juice. So you can get this fragrance at about 20% of what they're charging for this one. Okay, so just a heads up on that. And again, it may just be me, maybe someone else agrees with me, whoever's gonna watch this, but let me know if you think that that's the case. So that's my take on Beat Cafe. Golden Serenade. Okay, great, thank you for letting me know. So Golden Serenade, this one is pretty sweet. Vanilla, some cinnamon, or it smells like some kind of a spice. These are all dried down too. I like this one a lot. It's something that you'd want to wear probably in the holidays fall time, winter time, draw you in, you know, maybe on a date, you get someone's attention, and they're like, ooh, you smell good. They'll take a deeper whiff and kind of get that, like I said, the spicy cinnamon, a little bit sugary, vanilla, great dry down, good stuff. Um, this one I like more than Beat Cafe because I can take the Oud Malaki, get that same scent for much less. This fragrance, I have not smelled something super similar. Again, I haven't smelled everything in the world, but this one is more gourmand, which means when something is gourmand as far as a fragrance goes, that means it smells food-like. Okay, so when you get that scent, that's how it's described as a gourmand scent. Okay, so that one enjoyed for sure. The next one is called 14 Hour. Okay, this one, again, another patchouli vanilla heavy fragrance. It's similar to Golden Serenade, but this one smells a little bit more like this one. Okay, this one is Costume Nationale. Okay, Soul. And guess what? Costume Nationale and Jusbox are sister companies, so they're under the same umbrella. You can find this one, which is a better fragrance in my opinion than this one, for again probably 80 to 90 bucks, a little bit less, versus paying about $200 for the other one. And if you did the math, they're only 60 mils. I think this is a 100. So yeah, it's 100 mil. So you're getting more juice, less cost, and to me, it's a better fragrance. But that doesn't mean the 14 hours bad. I just don't think the value is quite there. It is a little bit different on the opening. This one is more ambery and not as sweet, but it does still smell great. The projection, so meaning how much you can smell it off of your skin, that's what projection means. It's very, very strong. Okay, so if you wanted a fragrance that someone could smell across the room, it would be something like this. And typically your amber scents, your fall scents, things that are heavier are going to give you a little bit better projection. And then also depending on the concentration that they are. So if it's an eau de toilette, or you must sometimes will see EDT, it says EDT, that means there's less oils from the perfume itself and there's more alcohol. The alcohol evaporates, and when things evaporate, it sends off those molecules into the air, which is what you get projection. Okay, this one happens to be an EDP. Okay, and so it projects a little less than an EDT would, but it still does a great job. Longevity, when you have more oil in a perfume, it means that it's going to last a little bit longer on your skin because that oil takes a little bit longer to evaporate, but it tones down the projection. So you get a good blend. Then you have another concentration called parfum. So if you ever see a parfum concentration, it means it has a very high amount of oils, less projection. It's going to stay close to your skin, but it's probably going to last 10, 12, 13, 14, a long time. And people are going to smell it in your little scent bubble. And most of the time, if you're warmed up, if you're walking around and it's not super cold, you're going to leave one of those scent trails. When you leave a scent trail, it's called the sillage. Okay, so that's what sometimes you'll walk by and you smell someone's fragrance and you're like, wow, that person smells amazing, but they're not even here. That's what's referred to as a sillage. Okay, so when you get that trail, there's three components that comprise a performance of a fragrance. Okay, thank you for the likes. I see 3 thumbs up. I appreciate that, y'all. So you got projection, you got sillage, and you've got damn, I'm drawing a blank. Projection, sillage, and longevity. Okay, so those are the 3 things you're looking for, and it varies depending on the concentration of oil in a perfume. So Depends on what you like, right? It depends on the setting you might be going into. If you want something really loud, you're going to the club, you're going out with the boys or the girls or whatever, and you want to be noticed, you want that confidence, you probably want to go with something that projects a little bit more so you can get noticed across the room. If you're something in more of an intimate setting where you're going to be hugging and you're, like meeting family or close friends or something like that, and you don't really need to announce your presence, you might want to go with something that is, a little bit closer to the skin, but still smells really good. So those are things to consider sometimes when you're shopping for fragrances. Okay. So I hope that gives you some kind of an idea of what those terms mean and what they do for you as performance goes as far as a fragrance. Um, Typically, also cheaper fragrances won't last as long because they use less quality materials and chemicals in them. So that's sometimes why you get what you pay for. But a lot of times, you might be able to find some hidden gems, which is something that I like to show and showcase on my channel. Is about hidden gems, and that's because I love finding something that is worth more than what you're paying for, especially when you can get something at a discount. So to me, that's it makes whatever that product is that much better, which is why I brought this up, where you can get this fragrance for about 70-80 bucks versus paying closer to 200 from the same sister company for a very, very like 95% same fragrance. Nothing to knock against Jusbox. It's just don't don't do that if you're gonna have a sister company. Don't put the same fragrance and or use a perfumer that's going to use a similar recipe to make something else. Okay, so I'm going to move on from Juicebox and I'm going to talk about another brand called Hermetica. So this is a really cool brand. I like it because I think the Hermetic principles, if you're not familiar with them, it's this old school way of thought. One of the things that they talk about is um, a phrase meaning "as above, so below." So whoever's hanging in there, thanks for sticking with me. If it's the same person, I appreciate you. Please join the chat. Ask me some questions if you have them about fragrances, or if you find this interesting, please give me a thumbs up. So yeah, this whole theme around this fragrance house is how they're also referred to, is when you have a brand called fragrance houses instead of a brand. Goes way back. Just a quick perfume historical factoid for you also. Fragrances were started by people in France that were perfuming gloves. And the reason they had to perfume the gloves is because they were made out of leather. And leather, when it's made like naturally through the tanning process, which is taking a hide from an animal and breaking it down and softening it up, the way that they soften up that hide from an animal is putting it through a chemical bathing process, and those chemicals are very harsh and they're astringent, which means it doesn't really smell too great. And so when they would try and sell these leathers, these gloves, people were pretty off put by it because they didn't smell that great. So the leather makers would perfume them, and they would put oils in them and make them smell better so that they wouldn't smell that, terrible. Um, and that's kind of how perfumery started. And then they started selling these little bags. They're called sachets, and they would perfume them and they would put them into their coats and stuff, the leather coats, and make those coats smell good too. So that's kind of like the history of where perfumery came from. But jumping back into this fragrance house, Hermetica, they do things a little bit different. So if you guys have ever heard of Dior Sauvage, which is a super popular fragrance, it's been promoted. I think it came out in 2014. Johnny Depp's been all over it. They've released like, I don't know, what is it, five different fragrances under that same line of Sauvage. They've got the original EDT. They have an EDP. They have a parfum. They've got an elixir, which is fantastic. It's phenomenal. I think it's the best one in the entire line. and they just released one called it's Eau Forte. Okay, the Eau Forte is different. They don't use alcohol. So, like I was talking about, that alcohol that makes things project, it's a water-based fragrance. It has glycerin in it. So that glycerin is supposed to be easier on the skin. So the alcohol sometimes irritates people's skin because it doesn't react well. And so they're trying to make things a little bit more skin friendly, a little bit more attentive to people having a bad reaction. So they're doing that water-based glycerin formula. The thing is, it doesn't project, but it lasts forever on your skin. Hermetica has came out 4 years ago. These guys were some of the pioneers in the niche perfumery line that started doing non-alcohol based perfume. So if you are someone who has maybe a sensitive skin and you want something, that an entire line that doesn't have the alcohol in it, you can try this brand out. It's Hermetica. Okay, so this one is their discovery set, and the way that they do things is they have a base formula. Okay, and they call it the source, which again goes with the theme of Hermeticism, which is a whole philosophy of the way to live your life. And I really, really like the philosophy. It's a little bit kind of like um, out there, I would say, but if you look it up, it kind of makes sense to me. There's a very basic breakdown of the way that they see things in life in general. Hermetic's life philosophy also kind of relates to the Kabbalah, which is there are two sides to everything. Okay, you've got the yin and the yang. Okay, it's also something familiar if you're not, if you've ever heard that before. Two sides to the same coin, as above, so below. So the source is like supposed to be our energy, and they phrase their base of a fragrance and they call it the source, and this is their description. Okay, most of these discovery sets come with some kind of an insert. Okay, so it looks like that. It's really cool. They put a lot of time and effort into this. So Hermetica was launched in 2018 by Clara and John Malloy, willing to initiate a new way to experience and make perfumes as close as possible to the skin, like an olfactive dance, combining the best of nature and science with a breakthrough formula present in each composition. Fragrance is able to perform and hydrate at the same time, both long-lasting, clean, and alcohol-friendly, like a true gesture of beauty, aware of the environment. Okay, so the source fragrance, this is their base. It's the opening elixir is how they phrase it. It's an eau de parfum that forms the very core of the Hermetica brand, and it's prima accord. It is both the base of all Hermetica fragrances as well as a standalone fragrance in its own right. As an enhancer, the luminous scent of bergamot essence is blended with molecules of dry amber and woody musk to bring a modern warmth and momentum to the skin. Okay, so then they have these other fragrances here. They have a rose heavy fragrance. They have what would be kind of like a floral heavy fragrance. Then they've got sandalwood. They have something more vanilla, and then ambery, and then an oud based fragrance. Okay, so I pretty much like all of them. I'm not too big into florals, but I did spray them again. This was the other night, last night. And because they are more or less alcohol based, they do tend to last longer. So they smell very, very clean and not chemical. And that's the kind of the entire point and what they're trying to go for within this house. So I love that. The only thing that is tough is that it is going to be much more of a skin scent, meaning close to the skin when you wear it. So I would personally use these fragrances in those more intimate settings, something where I didn't really want to have someone notice my fragrance, or maybe it was more of a meditative experience, because sometimes fragrances can do that for people, where they put you in a place where you can concentrate, or scents are very tied to your memory, or they give you a scent memory, right? And so maybe some of these can do that. Or if you want to form a scent memory with one of these fragrances, this would be one of those because it's going to be very close to you and it can be individual. You don't have to share that experience with someone else if you don't want to. So that's kind of my take on this. I don't want to get too much into the weeds as far as describing all of these just yet, just because I feel like whoever's been hanging with me this time, um, I do appreciate it, and I want to keep things moving. People pop in and out. I'm not sure if it's the same person, but yeah. If you're in here and you do wear a fragrance, I'd love to know what fragrance that you typically do wear. If you're not into it, no big deal. But so that's kind of my rundown of the Jusbox collection. A little bit talking about Costume Nationale, and they're both sister companies. Kind of what you can get. Talking about a little bit about how perfumers might make the same scent and make it redundant by getting contracted to a different perfume house and using the same DNA and just a little bit tweaks here and there, and in this case charging a whole lot more. So be aware that that can happen, and that there are deals to be had, uh, that you don't have to spend a lot of money to smell good. Okay, so don't be afraid to shop around online. There are online discounters that are reputable, that they're not going to send you fakes. Okay, some examples would be like Joma Shop, fragrancebuy.ca. It's a Canadian company. Fragrance Net is also a very reputable company. I've never had any problems with any of those three. Fragrance X is also a good one. So, you know, check those out. Maybe not pay full retail. If you do like the experience of shopping in a boutique and doing that, or like at the mall, then go for it. By all means, experience is something to be said for as far as what you're paying for when you do get something, right? It's a pretty cold experience when you're shopping online. Click, click, drop, drop, put in your credit card, and then it gets spit back to you, right? Not really personalized. Sometimes they'll send you free samples. When you're in person, you develop a relationship with that person. So there are different pros and cons to it. Um, so I don't want to, completely dog shopping in person, because I think there's something to be said, like I said, about the experience. Um, but been on for almost 30 minutes. It's hitting the 28-minute mark, and I'm going to wrap it up because I got to get ready for bed. I do appreciate whoever's been on here this whole time sticking with me, and the likes and the thumbs up. I do appreciate that. I'm going to be scheduling, if you want to subscribe, I'm going to be talking about fragrances a couple times a week, going live like this, and just breaking down things here and there. So check out my channel. I do individual fragrance reviews, I do comparisons, and then of course, if you have any questions, you can always respond to my posts that I make on my channel as well. Comment on those, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Y'all have a great evening. Thanks once again, and good night.